Then we have specification 3, which asks us to understand and use the terms dominant, recessive, phenotype, genotype, homozygous, and heterozygous. So here we will simply learn about these terms, how to use them, and where to apply them in genetic problems and descriptions. Now let us first understand the concept of single-factor inheritance. To make inheritance easier to study, scientists often focus on one gene controlling one trait at a time. For example, if a child inherits one allele for brown eyes, which is dominant, and one allele for blue eyes, which is recessive, the child will have brown eyes. This is because the dominant allele masks the effect of the recessive allele. Each characteristic is controlled by a pair of alleles, with one allele coming from each parent. These alleles may have different effects, and in many cases, one allele is dominant over the other. Alleles are found at the same position on homologous chromosomes. This concept helps us understand how the genotype, which is the combination of alleles, determines the phenotype, which is the observable trait, for a single characteristic. For example, consider eye color. Brown eyes are controlled by a dominant allele, while blue eyes are controlled by a recessive allele. If an individual inherits one allele for brown eyes and one allele for blue eyes, the dominant brown eye allele will be expressed. So, even though both alleles are present, the person will have brown eyes because the dominant allele masks the recessive one. This is directly linked to single-factor inheritance, because we are studying only one gene controlling one trait, which is eye color. It shows how a pair of alleles for a single characteristic determines the phenotype, making inheritance simpler to understand. In this example, we saw that brown eye color was expressed because it is controlled by a dominant allele. So we define it as follows. A dominant allele is one that is expressed in the phenotype even if only one copy is present. A dominant allele is an allele that is expressed in the phenotype even when only one copy is present, meaning it shows its effect in a heterozygous condition, which means where an individual has two different alleles for the same gene. This means an individual does not need two copies of the allele for the trait to appear. Dominant alleles are usually represented by a capital letter, such as capital B. For example, if capital B represents brown eyes dominant here, then both capital B and one small b genotypes will result in brown eyes being expressed. This happens because the dominant allele determines the trait regardless of the second allele.